Na 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 na.
Hello everyone. Today I would like to talk to you about awakening. Now, a lot of times when people think of the word awakening, you might think of someone who's been sleeping who wakes up. And that's exactly what it is. So, some people are naturally awakened beings. So we might think of these people as people who are able to see the joy and the freshness and the aliveness in every moment, and might think that that's good, kind of blessed, but we might even have judgments about that because we think, oh, these people are really in a different world because the seriousness of life does not really allow for that easygoing, relaxed nature that is just enjoying every flower along the way. But why not? So then we look at, there are some people who are awakened through either religion or spiritual means. So I think we've all heard of people who might be in a Buddhist monastery perhaps, or perhaps the religion of Hinduism. Some people know about Sufis. But every single religion that I know of does actually encourage awakening experiences too. So in that, of course, there's a lot of focus on prayer or meditation and being. And then some of us are awakened through life experiences. And even though I thought that this was a very rare experience, I'm noticing more and more how many people have these opportunities in their lives, and some are not recognizing the opportunities as they come. Maybe it's not the right time for them to recognize it, and maybe they just don't know how to make sense out of an awakening experience. So awakening, oftentimes in our day-to-day human experiences, we are caught up in the things that we perceive as our responsibilities, our tasks, the things we feel we have to do or need to do or must do. And if we don't do it, something major is going to happen. What would happen? What would happen if you didn't do what you think you have to do? This is interesting because I believe that most of us in our day-to-day human existence, myself included, do not look at things this way. We really do think that the world will end if we don't do the tasks that we really feel responsible for. And perhaps we feel responsible from what seems like logical reasons because it pays the bills. This is why we're so busy with work. And maybe when we have an experience, we're forced to look at things in a slightly different way. So for many people, an awakening experience can happen when something quite dramatic happens in life, like a separation, a divorce, maybe a loss of home, maybe a loss of family member. It could be based on bereavement, could be a very close friend or a family member who has passed. Maybe even watching someone go through illness can lead to an awakening experience. What's important in these times to recognize is that oftentimes when we're really compassionate or consumed by the experience that we're going through, our human mind doesn't have a lot of time to think. We can't think about what needs to be done in this time. We might think of what's the best way I can help a person who's going through illness, or what's the best way I can help someone who's grieving someone who has been lost in their lives. But when we ourselves are experiencing it fully, whatever the experience is, again, this could be someone's home burning down. It could be a natural disaster that has led to kind of this shock space. That shock space allows for us not to think. Can you imagine what we've trained our brains for all our lives, most of us, is to think, how will we do what's next? What's the next step to take? That sort of idea. But when we go through something quite traumatic, for some time, there can be some shock. It's just the overwhelming experience that is in front of us. And sometimes it takes days, weeks, months, and even years to get out of this space. But in that time, a different opportunity or window has opened up for us too. And in that opportunity, our soul, what I believe, our soul, our spirit, some people think of it as Christ consciousness, some people can think of it as help from God, some people think of it as help from the universe. I believe that it is represented in the word soul, whichever way you represent it in language. This is a time where suddenly there is a connection to something bigger than ourselves, where something helps us get through the days, and oftentimes we won't even know how we got through the days in that state of shock, but something helps us. And suddenly, there's even a different awareness within ourselves. So when we have a moment to just feel that awareness, it's an opportunity for awakening. Now, a lot of times when people are going through an awakening experience, it's a very not comfortable, not easy time. It's a time where our whole self-system that we have developed through our lives is crumbling. So whether our self-system was based on who we think we are as a person, or this is the home I live in, or this is the relationship I have, or maybe you think of yourself as a husband or a wife, or maybe there's a career that's broken down, maybe because you've lost your job, maybe you've chosen to pull out of your job. There's something about some non-satisfaction coming from that position. Maybe you have to move because a landlord wants their home back. Whichever way that this sudden shock comes to your experience, when you're in that space, you may have an opportunity to experience an awakening. And in that awakening time, there's an awareness of how little these day-to-day human experiences really matter. So what we really recognize oftentimes is the incredible joy and blessing it is to be alive, basically just to be alive. It's a joy and blessing to be able to see, to hear, to smell, to touch, to see and experience our world in a way that might have been passing by before. And suddenly, it's such an awareness that we have through awakening that you can't help but see it. So if any of you have gone through or are currently going through what you believe may be an awakening experience, you might know that this takes a bit of time to process, because the self-system that we are used to takes a little bit of time to adjust to a new way of thinking, feeling, and being in the world. And I can tell you that it's a much more comfortable place to be. And it doesn't happen overnight. A moment of that awareness is wonderful. But to process and fully appreciate and to live from that awakened space takes a little bit of nurturing, maybe a little bit of focus, some awareness, some prayer, some meditation, some support, perhaps some counseling and guidance. And support is what I'm all about. So if you need support going through your awakening experience, or you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm at menincentre.ca, 416-920-8975. And I look forward to seeing you next time.
Na 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 na.